what's going on. The Israeli attack in Dahia, in southern part of Beirut, then Iranian response. What we've learned from the Israeli Hayom, one of the main mainstream outlets in Israel, they said that Iran has succeeded in creating a very disturbing equation. What is that equation? Any attack on Beirut will be met with Iranian missiles toward Israel. Israel, before attacking, as they reported, they say Israel before attacking before attacking Dahia, before attacking Beirut, they thought that Iran would never respond to. But what was the main target? It's just amazing, Paul, what has happened in Dahia. They hit an empty building in Dahia. No one was there. They thought that the Hezbollah commanders are there. They want to assassinate them. No one got killed. I'm talking about the Hezbollah forces. But some people, ordinary people who were close to that building, got hit, and one of them, it seems that got killed, and four people wounded. That was the outcome for Israel. Then Iran attacked, hit the northern part of Israel. We had Israeli attack on Iran. Then Iranian response to they hit the targets in the northern part of Israel, in the central part of Israel, and in the southern part of Israel. And as we talk right now, there is some sort of firing back and forth between Yemenis and Israel. Israel. So far, I haven't seen any sort of attack from Israel on Yemen, but Yemen is hitting Israel with drones. They're sending a lot of drones toward Israel, and Israel is hitting some targets in southern part of Lebanon. This is what's going on. On the other hand, what we've learned from Channel 12, there was a phone call after Israeli attack on Lebanon. There was a phone call. In that phone call, as Donald Trump reported on Channel 12 of Israel, he said that I warned Netanyahu that if he escalates the situation into a war, he will be left alone against Iran. I tried to limit the size of the Israeli response to Iran after 5 countries asked me to pressure Netanyahu. And this is the situation we're in right now. How do you see the situation? What do you make of it?
Well, I make of it supports my previous view that the Iranians are very slow to realize, and haven't yet realized, that they are in a fight for their right to exist. So they're wasting their time, their efforts, playing tit for tat with the Americans and the Israelis, which is pointless. The Iranians have failed to understand they need a doctrine on how to win the war. And they need to put that doctrine into effect. It is clear that Israel would have zero chance of prevailing against Iran in a war. Now, people would say, oh, Israel has nukes. The Americans let them have nukes. They killed President Kennedy because they didn't want Israel to have nukes, so Israel killed him. Israel has nukes. They'll nuke Iran. Well, Iran can nuke Israel because the Dimona nuclear plant is in Israel. All Iran has to do is hit it. So Iran can nuke Israel. In fact, they should have already done that. The war would be over. So I still don't see any realization on the part of the Iranians that they've got to fight for their lives, for their existence as a nation, as a sovereign nation, because the Israeli doctrine of Greater Israel does not permit the existence of Iran. So what are they going to negotiate? They have nothing to negotiate. They can achieve zero from negotiating with Trump or Israel or whoever. They've got to fight, and they don't seem prepared to do that. So they strike back when they're struck, or their allies are struck. They strike back, but the strikes do not comprise a military agenda to win a war. They're irrelevant. What is the point of striking back? What do you achieve? Nothing. These strikes achieve nothing. And that's what the Iranians are teaching the Americans and the Israelis. They're not prepared to fight for their existence. Instead, they issue threats like Putin. Well, what does Putin's threats mean? Nothing. They've never met anything. They're totally dismissed. And now Iran's getting in this position. They make threats. You do this again, we'll do. Threats, words, they're meaningless. Only actions count. And we haven't seen any decisive actions from Iran since they stupidly agreed to the ceasefire. So, as far as I can tell, the Iranian government is unaware that they're in a fight for their existence. They're sitting there. They get, oh, you strike us, we'll strike you back. This is playing. This is playing at war. What good does it do to strike back? It's not part of a strategic program to win a war. They're in a war for their existence. They don't realize it. Maybe they feel secure. Still, they should see the threat and say, okay, it's us or them. What's the point of tit for tat, tit for tat? This can go on forever. We could be talking in 2050 and it's still tit for tat. So that's my view of it. I think the Iranians, like the Russians, are deceiving themselves and setting themselves up for ultimate defeat because they're incapable of understanding that their very existence is under threat. If you're under threat, you have to respond decisively. They're not. The other day, one of the Iranian leaders, an important person, said, well, we prefer to have negotiations, but we will fight. Well, no, he should say, we're not interested in negotiations. One more time, we're going to destroy you. No negotiations, no talk. Stop now or be destroyed. That's the only position Iran can take. There's no other position. There's nothing else could work for Iran.
No. Paul, here is what was reported on Axios. It seems one of the US officials told Axios that Bibi needs the war to continue to stay politically alive in Israel. And Donald Trump needs the war to end to stay politically alive in the United States. What is your assessment of that? And do you think that Donald Trump is the way that this guy, this US official is talking about?
Well, that could be true. I mean, it makes sense. the Americans don't support the war. And Trump is widely or increasingly widely understood as a two-bit punk puppet of Netanyahu. There are memes all over the internet with Netanyahu playing Trump as a doll. Netanyahu's playing with a doll, throwing him around, beating him up. So that there's a certain amount of truth in that. But on the other hand, Trump let himself be taken into this war by Netanyahu, and he has not renounced the war. He's not said, dear fellow Americans, I made a mistake. I trusted our Israeli ally, and I didn't realize they're not really an ally. They're somebody who uses us for their purposes. And I've made a mistake, and so the only thing to do is for me to pull out. He hasn't the strength of character to do that. So Netanyahu has him. And this is the whole trouble. But you see, worse things are now happening. As we speak, the United States House Foreign Services Committee is busy at work integrating the Israeli military with the United States military. The Israelis are to have all of our weapon systems. They're to jointly own the patents, even though they don't contribute to the development. It won't be long before we'll have Israeli commanders giving orders to U.S. Marines. And on top of this, we have the Trump program of preventing any criticism of Israel because it is going to be criminalized. If you criticize Israel, it means you're an enemy of the United States and you'll be arrested. Well, then this shows that Donald Trump is incapable of representing the United States. He represents Israel. So he's, at the moment, frustrated because Netanyahu doesn't understand that Trump needs the war over so he can hold on to the Congress at the midterms. You know, the midterm election's not about Trump, it's about the House and the Senate. But if the Democrats prevail because people are mad at Trump, then he really becomes a frustrated president who can't act, he can't do anything. Well, Netanyahu feels the same way. He's frustrated that Trump won't help him finish this war because Netanyahu is up for election. Not just the parliament, but Netanyahu. And he started a war, and if the result is that Israel keeps getting missiles from Iran blowing up places, he might lose because there is some opposition in Israel to this Zionist agenda of subduing the entire Middle East. So the two guys have short-term needs that don't coexist. They don't go together well. So that's a problem. But that's just a short-term tactical problem. The long-term problem is the Israeli agenda of Greater Israel. And this agenda, the Muslim community in the Middle East has succeeded in denying, avoiding for 75 years. And so the Israelis do not take any country in the Middle East seriously. The Israelis look at them and say, these people are so stupid, they don't even understand we're out to get them. And they're right. The Israelis are right. They don't understand. The Iranians don't understand that they are set up for extermination, just like Palestine, just like Iraq, Libya, Syria, the West Bank, Gaza. They don't seem to understand that. And they seem to think that words and tit for tat is the way to proceed. Well, it's not. It's not going to work. So my prediction is, unless there's some realization of reality in Tehran, and there has been none in Moscow, unless there's some realization, we are now locked into another long-term conflict like the one between Israel and Palestine. It's now going to be repeated with Iran and Lebanon. And that's what we face. So that's my view of it. And what all those people say and all that, just they have no idea what they're talking about. They're not even in the game. They don't have any comprehension of the reality that they're in. So what's, Palestine has been in the news my entire life. Fortunately, I'll be dead, but for successive lives of people, it's going to be the long, drawn out devouring of Lebanon and Iran by Israel. They'll eat a little piece, another little piece, another little piece, just as they did to Palestine. You have to remember, in 1947, what is now Israel was Palestine. There wasn't any Israel. It was Palestine. The whole territory was Palestine. And you look at it now, it's all Israel. And last week, you said, the other day we only had 50% of Gaza. Now we got 60. Tomorrow we'll have 70. Soon 100. So Gaza is being gobbled up, and it's all hidden from view by Trump's peace board. Well, the same thing's going to happen to Lebanon. And the same thing's going to happen to Iran. They'll sit there and play tit for tat. And this piece will be gone, and that piece. So, I'm sure this sounds awful, but
I think, Paul, with what's going on right now, Israel is going to be, because the United States has a decision to make. Are they going to stay in the Middle East? Are they going to fight? You mentioned the Section 224, which is merging the two military, the military of the United States with the Israeli military. And how is that going to trap the United States in the endless wars of Israel?
Yeah, that's what the purpose is. And there's very little opposition in the Congress. Some of the Democrats have opposed it, but the Republicans say, "Oh well, if we don't do this, the Muslims will get Israel, and they'll come here and get us." How are they going to come get the United States? Through the Democrats' open borders? Yeah, they can do it that way. But militarily, no. There's no military threat. Yeah, that's what's happening. Israel Israel is in the process of abolishing the United States Constitution through this 224, Section 224 of the National Defense Authorization Act, because it's going to be criminalized if you criticize Israel. So I won't be able to say anything else. You won't be either. They'll come get you. So the whole thing is, it could have been broken up by Putin, but he didn't have the wits. And he succumbed to all this notion of negotiations, and now he's in a war 5 years old that shouldn't have lasted 5 hours. Well, the same things happened to the Iranians. They simply refuse to take the initiative and act decisively. Why? Because they refuse to understand the threat that they face. They think what is the threat? How does the Iranian leadership understand that Israel and the United States attacked Iran? How do they understand this? Why did this happen? What does it mean? Is it going to go away? Why did they do it? I've never seen any Iranian discussion of this. It's fundamental. So they don't have any comprehension even of why this is happening. And they deal with it by saying, oh, it's evil. Well, it is evil, but that's not an explanation. Why? What? Why is Israel so determined that the United States destroy Iran for Israel? Why? Why doesn't the Iranian leaders sit there and say, hey, why is this? What's this going on? What does it mean? If they did, they might understand that they got to fight for their lives. And they got to quit playing tit for tat and get a war plan and defeat the enemy. And if they don't, it's going to be Palestine all over again.